All right. Hello, everyone. 9 o'clock right now. It is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. I'm Jane Monreal. You are watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Want to take a look outside right now. We have had rain for much of the week, really since the weekend. And so today it continues as we take a live look at Uptown. Things are going to be pretty cloudy out there. Chance for spotty showers every now and then. So just keep that in mind as you make your way out and about this morning. While we are talking about Charlotte, the Queen City, wow, this morning we want to take a look right now at the economic impact of North Carolina's Latino community, including Charlotte. A groundbreaking new study revealing that Camino, the nonprofit based here in Charlotte, driving nearly $6 billion in economy, in our economic activity across the state of North Carolina. It's amazing. So I want to bring in now Rusty Price, the CEO of Camino, discussing these extraordinary findings. Rusty, thank you for joining us so early this morning. You hit some rain, right?
I did it right.
So tell me, Rusty, the almost $6 billion, what do you attribute that to, and what does this mean for the Tar Heel State?
Well, it was an interesting study. We had we actually commissioned the study and reached out to a gentleman who does the economic impact studies for a lot of the sporting events and entertainment that you'll see, like with the Panthers and the Hornets. And we wanted to see how big of an impact what we are doing in the community we serve have in the area. And I've never read an economic impact. It's kind of out of my world. I'm more in the humanities. And when it came back, it was just shocking.
Yeah.
It was $789 million in the metropolitan service area, which is the greater Charlotte area,
okay,
for a year. And then you mentioned $5.89 billion on a state level. And it talks about the direct spending, indirect spending, and induced spending.
Okay.
That is in the group that we serve, related to the activities we do.
And I mean, obviously, it means so much as a growing Latino population in North Carolina. So for those unfamiliar with Camino, how did this start? We talked a little bit off the stream here, but where did this mission start with you? And did you ever see that this impact was going to be so big?
No, it's really, really been an amazing journey. My wife and I, years ago, we were in Charlotte, felt this calling to leave everything and go as missionaries to Cuba, which was this impossible journey because it was a closed country. There were no telecommunications, no flights there. So it was like stepping off into nothing.
Into, time warp.
Right, and we didn't even have internet. We had to go to the library and investigate things. I mean, I'm from the 1900s. I mean, I'm old, right? And but we got there and we had we saw an opportunity to start a nonprofit humanitarian aid organization, and so we did that. And even though I'm a person of faith, Cuba wouldn't work with a religious entity, so we started the nonprofit as just a straightforward nonprofit. It's not a religious entity. We say it's not faith-based, but it's faith-filled, so our faith drives us. But it kind of morphed over the years into what it is today. And through the years, we saw some of the growing community here in Charlotte, and then we were serving them and saw some of the barriers that they were facing and felt compelled to get involved. And now we have this huge array of services, from healthcare to helping start businesses, a research institute, and it's a lot bigger than I had ever dreamed it would be.
I mean, there seems to be a ribbon cutting or some kind of grand ceremony every year or so, which is great because it speaks to the need of this growing population, the largest growing population in Charlotte, if not North Carolina. Now, you said that you cover from health to business and sports, and how is the involvement with say NASCAR and the NFL empower Camino and the work that you do?
Well, we had the great opportunity a few years ago. A friend of mine worked with the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and so we would always reach out to him for collaboration, and we do events at the Speedway, and they would reach out to us to try to engage the Latino community. Where during COVID, they eliminated his job, and so he actually came and he works with us now.
Oh,
and so
okay.
we have this insider right into those areas, and The Charlotte FC actually came and built a soccer field at our place, and we worked closely with them. And the sports teams here have always been very gracious, allowing us to give tickets out to the people that we serve.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. The 789 million that we're seeing from Camino's work, how does that ripple through North Carolina then?
Right. So as I had to learn what this economic impact means, the direct spending would be like if I went to a taco stand, right? And the money I spend at the taco stand would be, I'm buying tacos. That's direct spending out of my pocket to that. And then the taco stand, the indirect spending is the monies that they pay their employees with. And so that dollar has multiplied now and it goes to them. And then the monies they spend to, pay their rent and their housing. So it's kind of a multiplier effect.
Right.
That shows that, and they do this with a lot of the sporting events, right? They'll say, if we bring this tournament to town, the
Right.
economic impact will be this.
Right.
Which doesn't mean it's the gate sales, but rather the ripple effect in the economy.
Yes.
And so this is the first time this gentleman, Dr. Reagan, has done a study on a nonprofit. Most of his work has been in the entertainment industry. And when we reached out to him, he thought, man, this is really cool. I want to do this. And so he was as surprised as we were to see the deep impact that it has. You think about the health care. It doesn't just relate to the spending, but it also relates to the being able to go to work and not miss work because you're not sick. And being able to keep people out of the emergency room. Those are these added benefits for the kind of work we do.
Let's talk about some of the values that the culture brings, Latinos and Hispanic or Latina X, right? Those values sort of have these intangible, translations or contributions to the economy as well.
Okay, Jane, you're going to get me all excited.
Oh, okay. I know that.
So obviously I'm not Latino, right?
Right.
But
I don't know.
Maybe, right? But I've had the privilege of working with this beautiful community for years, and right now there's this narrative, especially around immigration, that this is a big problem. I actually believe that the Latino community is a big part of the solution. I don't think we should be calling the solution the problem. And the reason I think that, first of all, it's the fastest growing demographic in our country. If you look across the U.S., the average house has 1.4 or 1.7 children per home, which that's not even sustainable as a society. You go out of business if you don't have at least 2.1. It's not even replacement rate for population. Latinos, because of their family values, have 4.3 kids per home. So regardless of whatever happens with immigration right now and deportation, the projections are that the Latino population will become the majority population in a couple, 20 years, something like that. And so I think there's fear on both sides, on all sides, a lot of times when you look into the future. But what I've learned is that the vast majority of the Latino immigrant families have these values of faith, family, hard work, resilience. They value education. They're coming here not looking for handouts. They're looking for opportunity. They're starting businesses. They're debt adverse. They work today, save money to buy something. Where a lot of times I'm guilty of, buying it today, paying for it tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of our consumer economy. And so if you look at all the indicators throughout all the sectors of the U.S., there's the Latino population are adding great strength. The Bank of America commissioned an economic study on the Latino population.
Oh,
in the
yes.
US.
I think I went to that.
Yeah. And so you look at those numbers, it's like
billions.
Yeah. If you look at the Latino economy in the U.S. as its own GDP, it's the 5th largest GDP in the world, larger than France, larger than Germany, and it's the 3rd fastest growing. And so you look at those indicators. Another thing out of that study said that Latino youth are graduating with bachelor degrees at 120% of any other demographic. So again, I think sometimes we have these lenses that we look at people, and with a lot of the discussion around immigration, it's easy to think, these are all gang members and violent criminals. But that is completely the opposite of what the reality is.
Right.
These are families that are coming, working hard, working to adapt, looking to sacrifice so their kids can go to college. And I think it brings such strength to our communities.
Yeah, thank you for providing that insight. Another way to look at what the current situation is right now with families and just in general, immigrant families and making America what it is. What would you like our viewers, listeners to know about Camino, the work you do, the Latino community? I'm listing a whole bunch of things. What would you like people to know, Rusty, as you...
Well, first of all, I think proximity is powerful, right? I think my life, I grew up in a deep South segregated environment in, the panhandle of Florida. We called it the Redneck Riviera.
I'm from South Florida.
Okay,
so.
okay. So it's like my whole worldview was completely changed through proximity. And by able to walking along with families, I see, hey, these guys laugh like I do and cry like I do, and they have dreams like I do. And I think being able to be so close, the Latino community has enriched my life so much. And I see them, and they're willing to risk everything and go through incredible difficulties to try to attain the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it to give their kids a better life. And I'm convinced that in giving their kids a better life, they're going to give my grandkids a better life. And so I would just encourage everybody to try to, find experiences that you can have in a tangible way, and don't let virtual communication set our paradigm about this community. Take what we observe in day-to-day life, and don't be swayed by political, movements that are trying to make us feel something that we haven't experienced.
It's really the human connection that we should have anyway.
That's right.
Face to face, without any boundaries.
That's right.
As far as the digital and virtual, sometimes protective walls that we might find ourselves behind. Rusty Price, thank you so much for this really great, insightful conversation on Charlotte's community, Latino community, and certainly affecting everyone in North Carolina and the American dream as a whole. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
De nada.
Tengas un buen día.
Muy buen español, Jane. Excelente.
Muy gracias. Muchas gracias. Aprendo, pero necesito aprender más, practicar más.
Así es.
Sí.
Y comer más chile.
Okay.
Si come chile, va a borrar el inglés.
Va a
If you
borrarlo.
eat chili peppers, it'll erase your.
Is that what it's going to do? I got to learn that trick. Okay. Rusty Price from Camino. They do good work there, so we will continue to help them out, and this is how we support each other. All right. So from here, we're going to take it now to the States. Speaking of North Carolina, right now underway, it is a live meeting for the Senate, the Agriculture, Energy, and Environment Committee. Let's go to that live here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
2050 goal appears to be a mandate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to switch lastly to a question about natural gas, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Chairman for other committee members' questions. With rising natural gas demand in North Carolina for electric generation and industrial growth, pipeline capacity and interstate transportation rates are increasingly critical. What criteria will you consider in determining the need and the public interest for natural gas infrastructure?
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that's been considered, and it should be continue to be considered here in North Carolina, but it's also an important debate that's going on nationwide. It's not only the critical role that natural gas is playing in sustaining our reliable electricity grid. It's also the various industries that employ gas to produce what they do. I think that one of my interests will be to determine and to convince myself that we have the kind of physical capacity and redundancy from a national security standpoint to be able to continue to deliver manufacturing support, electricity, and various other residential uses of natural gas reliably in the future.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, for your willingness to serve. I've got just a few questions. As far as public trust and transparency, Utilities Commission's quasi-judicial role requires public confidence. What concrete steps can you take to enhance transparency, encourage public participation, and build trust in Commission proceedings?
Right, that's a good question, and of course the Commission at times takes on two different roles, and certainly in the quasi-judicial role, there are confidences that have to be kept. There's prohibitions for various discussions, but those are only for the matters that are at hand in that role. Another large role of the Commission is to set rates, to approve our integrated resource plans. Those are the kinds of decisions that need to be more transparent, in my opinion. I think it's also partially due to the rather technical nature, both technical from a legal standpoint and technical from an engineering standpoint, that we need to work to make it more accessible to understand what some of these decisions are and what they entail. And I think that's something that perhaps I could help with.
Thank you. A couple of questions.
We follow up.
The governor's asked me to chair a workforce task force for workforce development. And what, as utilities transition to clean energy, modernized grid, workforce shortages are growing concern everywhere in the state. But how would you encourage the utilities to invest in training, develop programs, and to meet the needs, and should the Commission play a role in overseeing such initiatives?
To be honest, that's a question I haven't considered. I think the role, as a utilities commissioner, I could certainly consider that. I'm much more concerned about continued delivery of reliable and affordable electricity within the confines of the restraints we were talking about earlier. I'm afraid I'll just have to get back to you on that one.
I understand.
Sorry.
I understand. I have just one more, and it's resilience. In North Carolina, we've experienced several hurricanes, several flooding events from the east to the west, historical flooding and historical events. How will you ensure that utility investments prioritize resilience and adaptation, and what metrics can you use to evaluate their effectiveness?
Right, and resilience is related but not the same as reliability. Resilience is a question in the face of natural disasters. It could be a question in the face of a cyber attack and other malign attacks. There's certainly things that can be done, including on-site storage of gas or other fuels. But there is a question mark about securing our distribution system. And I believe that whenever we have an event that occurs as catastrophic as the hurricanes, we need to learn from those events to see what did and what didn't work. I'm very concerned about the events that have occurred elsewhere, not just in North Carolina, because we can learn from what happened in Spain. We can learn what happened in Texas. We can learn what happened in California. And all those things need to be considered. When I was on the Energy Policy Council, we actually had tabletop exercises to determine what steps could be taken to try to be more resilient. I think if you'll have me back in a little while, I'll be able to give you some specifics. But it's certainly a big concern.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Choju, I think I saw your arm next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Judge, for being here. I think you may rival our Secretary of Health and Human Services for the most number of degrees before us here. Just had a couple of questions for you. First question for you is, what do you think is the most important thing or the role? What is the most important role for the Utilities Commission?
Well, the most important role, I believe, despite the fact that we regulate a number of utility functions, is to deliver reliable and affordable energy within the confines that are mandated. I think as we go forward, not just with the idea of these data centers, but I think if you look at overseas what high pricing has done to middle class and lower class individuals, we need to work very hard to maintain the affordability of our electricity.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, just to follow up.
Okay, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then my second question for you, Judge, is what is your view of the role of the public?
We're going to break away now from North Carolina Senate meeting to Vice President Vance at Vice President's residence. He is hosting a Police Week breakfast right now. We're going to dip into this live on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Larry Henderson, who lost his life because he was doing his job and keeping people safe. And when I think about why that senseless crime happened, obviously you've got to place blame on the guy who committed the crime, but I also think a lot of the blame falls on American leadership, who for too long have made our police officers out to be enemies instead of the great public servants that all of us know that they are. So no, from the president on down, this administration stands behind you guys. We love you guys. We know that you're out there doing a good job for us. And I think that moral leadership matters just as much as the public policy, but from this administration, you're of course getting it both. So thank you all, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. I want to give a couple of shout outs here because this is a very special day for me for a couple of reasons. Number one, we've got the great Mac here, who today becomes, right, it's today, becomes the leader of the uniform division of the Secret Service, which is a very, very big deal. And your guys and gals do a great job for us, and we're grateful to them, but obviously for your leadership as well. We've got the great Paul Perez here, who represents our Border Patrol and Border Patrol officers. I thought we had, somebody told me we had Jeff Simpson, but I don't see Jeff. Is Jeff here? Okay, he wasn't able to make it, okay. Well, maybe he's watching on TV. Jeff, I'm sorry you couldn't make it, but we're thrilled to have you here. And then Dan Hill is from my hometown of Cincinnati. Dan, it's good to see you, man, and please give Deputy Henderson's family our best. Yes, sir. And then a couple of other folks I want to shout out. So I believe we have Lieutenants Hudson and Jarbo. Lieutenant Hudson, where are you? Okay, great. And Jarbo, there you are. So these guys actually, think about the trade that these guys make. So they are the most active participants, I believe, in the motorcades that we do all around Washington, D.C. And if you think about it, every single day, rain or shine, in freezing cold weather, they get out there, they keep us safe, they clear traffic, they make it possible for me to do the job that I do. Again, they're on duty every day helping us. And that's what I get out of this relationship. And out of this relationship, you guys get free breakfast one day. So I think that I'm the winner in the grand scheme of things, but we appreciate your service. And to all of you guys, I can't give everybody a shout out, but we're really thrilled to have you and really grateful for the work that you do. So before we eat, I want to do this proper here. I want to introduce, let me get the name here right. Where do we have? Lieutenant Joe Gamaldi. Where's Lieutenant Gamaldi? Joe, thank you. Come on up here and give us a blessing before we eat. And everybody, enjoy your breakfast, and thanks for joining us in our home this morning. God bless you.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning with grateful hearts. Thank you for the gift of this new day, for the fellowship we share, and for
All right, it looks like they are cutting that breakfast short as the vice president welcomes law enforcement. Let's go back to North Carolina State Senate hearing on agriculture, energy, and environment.
Defined the Public Utilities Commission 10 years ago may not be sufficient today. And so with that, I think I wouldn't hazard to get any more specific than that.
Okay. Follow up?
Follow up.
Thank you. Related to that, do you think the Utilities Commission has done enough related to energy efficiency, which many folks in the industry would say is the best investment we could make in terms of reducing energy use, reducing customer rates, things like that?
And energy efficiency
and demand management. I'll add demand management.
Right, and those are two different things. The energy efficiency question is, again, an ongoing query because things that are not cost effective, in other words, won't be efficient if you consider the overall cost at a certain price point of your bill, become efficient as that price goes up. And so I think what one thing that some people may lull themselves into complacency is that they've done an efficiency analysis for all these different functions, and they think they're done when 2 years later, 3 years later, a whole new raft of options become efficient. So that's an ongoing inquiry. I think energy efficiency is critical in keeping down costs. It makes sense from so many standpoints. And efficiency means you're doing the same thing, but with less electricity. Now, DSM, demand-side management, is different. In demand-side management, you're not doing everything exactly like you were doing, but you may be able to do some things that you can live with. And so that I have seen DSM suggestions that are trivially simple to accept, but there are others that can change your standard of living. So those are a different inquiry, but again, can be very effective in especially emergency situations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Jarvis, I think you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderbart. Great to see you here. You've touched just a little bit on the issue in Spain and, of course, Christmas Eve 2022 and then January 25 really brought out the vulnerabilities in the reliability that we have in energy based on our heavy reliance on intermittent renewable resources. I just wondered, how will these vulnerabilities influence your decision moving forward whenever you're selecting new generation sources?
Well, the one thing I feel comfortable telling you right now is that we are going to learn very much in detail what frailties each of those events that you referred to illustrate. Because I don't think they actually illustrate the same in every case. But in every case, there's going to be something of relevance to North Carolina. And so that's one thing that I'm going to be extremely interested in learning as much as we can possibly learn about. And then be transparent as to what we find so that everybody can look at those and decide whether or not additional restrictions need to be made on spinning electricity versus other forms of electricity. And so my answer right now is we're going to be exhaustive in learning what happens in other similarly situated and transforming electricity generating systems.
Follow up.
Follow up.
In line with that, when we think about nuclear, we know that's a least cost, most reliable source of energy. And around the world, we continue to expand nuclear, and the U.S. is not expanding in the way that I would like to see our reliability. I mean, we've got several, of these big data centers that are coming into the state. And looking into the future, I think we need things to move forward in that area. Are there certain policies or things that you would recommend or coming down from the commission to better move us in that direction?
Well, the first thing I would say is that the success of developing large-scale nuclear, and I'll leave small-scale at this point on the side because I don't consider it a commercially available technology yet. But the very fact that we've got the model that we have in North Carolina is a requirement, I think, to be able to successfully build new large-scale nuclear in the future. And to your point, we can look at the foresight that was shown by this state years ago in building nuclear and recognizing that right now it's the cheapest power on the grid. But unfortunately, the timescale of building and the timescale for payback can be longer than some people's horizons. And so we have to be very mature about and very sober about the realities of building new large-scale nuclear. Now, happily, we've seen states start to move forward. We've seen South Carolina now reinitiate their efforts, and partly it's due to the the demands of new industries and the recognition that they're seeking reliable power. So I'm not convinced that at this point that there needs to be any policy changes as so much as, again, being very cognizant of the changing world that we live in, the success of large-scale nuclear in other countries, and I think the renaissance, the beginning of a renaissance here in America. So I think I'd love to see North Carolina evaluate those moving forwards.
One final follow-up.
Go ahead, Senator.
With nuclear, is there any reason, I know it's not something that we can do on the state level, but from the federal standpoint, is there any reason that a design of a nuclear plant cannot be approved that could be built anywhere in the United States, and it could be approved that once that design is approved, it could be implemented, you could have a permit in 8 days? Now, I understand you still have civil work that's outside that scope, but the scope of the plan, would that not help the U.S. to move forward?
Senator Jarvis, there's no doubt that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission can be at times frustrating to deal with. I think that discussions with our partners in Washington are called for. However, I am optimistic as these large-scale nuclear power plants are installed that it will become more facile, whether it's as facile as we'd like to see. That's debatable. I know one of the promises held out for small-scale or small modular reactors is that it could be more easily permitted. We'll see. We don't know. But you raise a very, very serious concern.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be very quick. Judge, good to see you. Met you in a lot of different roles, and nice to have you here. Lease costs, we talk about that a lot of times, and it's very important, but I think reliability is what people really are concerned about. They'll fuss about their bill being up, but when their lights are out, they call. And so we want to make sure we have reliability. We met yesterday with a Taiwanese delegation, and they were telling us about a $300 million investment in Tennessee that they're doing, and they want to do a lot more, but Tennessee can't provide them the energy. They say they need 1 gigawatt of energy for a project they'd love to do somewhere. That's a nuclear plant. So I'm going to pick up what Senator Jarvis has said. You know, nuclear is very important. I've talked to my friends at Duke. A lot of us have been looking at nuclear, base nuclear. And part of what I think people want out of the regulatory folks, especially the commission, is to see movement and to see transparency in the discussion so people know what we're doing. I think people want to understand, and I think it behooves us as lawmakers and you as regulator to let people know and let the folks that are regulating know so that we can move on. And I think if we could work with the nuclear regulatory folks, some of these projects could move fast if we use the Georgia plant, you know, some of the plants that are already worked and up and running and stuff. So that's my nuclear pitch, and I really want you all to think about that. Natural gas, there is a lot of natural gas in North Carolina, and there's some folks that are talking about how to develop it and use it for big projects. And we really need the commission to work with all of these folks, again, safe, environmental way to do it. But those projects I think are going to be real important because I'm one of those. I think we need to be doing everything. We need to be trying to do every project that we can because I think the need is going to be so great. But what I really want to talk a few minutes about is security, cybersecurity, grid, and all of that, and have the commission, how they can work with folks to deal with these things, because the IT new secretary was telling us how many thousands of hits our system takes every day, and we saw what happened in Moore County in Senator McGinnis's area when there was an attack on a substation and the devastation that it did. So would you talk just a minute about any of those, and then that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Senator, and I wish you could have asked a simpler question, but the fact of the matter is you've illustrated both with the most sophisticated attack and probably the most primitive attacks how vulnerable our electricity distribution system might be, and for that matter, generating system might be. So I'm not going to tell you that I can develop a secure a cyber-secure system, but I can tell you that the Commission is going to learn what the standard is, the highest standard is that's accessible, and we're going to pursue that. So we'll do the best that's out there, the best technology that's available, we'll do that. On the low end, I say on the most primitive end, but also very dangerous end, this is something that was brought up back when I was on the Energy Policy Council, and I think and again, I think the point is it's too easy right now to make those kinds of disturbances. And I think all I can tell you is that we are going to sit down and see what can be done, whether it's being a little bit more careful about hiding these substations versus something much more sophisticated. We're going to study what can be done to reasonably protect against those kinds of what I think are primitive attacks.
Thank you, Senator Bergen. Senator Brinson, you okay? Senator Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, Commissioner, thank you for being with us. I think you've answered a lot of questions this morning. I'm going to leave you with one that you do not have to answer this morning, because I'll see you again, I believe, here shortly in another committee meeting. But I want you, and if I don't forget it at the time, I want you to think on 3 of the things you would like to accomplish being on the Utility Commission, and that would be your priorities. And so I'm not going to force that on you this morning. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee, recommend adoption of the, let me get it right, Senate Joint Resolution 763 with a referral to the Senate Select Committee on nominations at this time on Don Vanderbart.
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I did have one question. I'm sorry I didn't have my...
Okay, Senator Grafstein, go ahead.
If you don't mind, really briefly, just because you mentioned nuclear and that Europe's ahead of us in nuclear, also ahead of us in wind power, and I wondered another technology that's sort of timeline, issues to get up and running, but is very efficient.
Right now, I want to bring you a live picture from the U.S. Naval Academy. You are looking live right now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, a tradition of climbing and celebrating the Herndon Monument, something that started back in 1962. This is a class of 2028, seeing how long it takes for them to climb up this monument that is pretty much lathered in lard. I mean... It's a
sight to behold.
It's an interesting tradition, but something that I can just keep on watching.
I know. It's like,
take this.
One of them's got to do it.
All day, every day. The monument itself was erected in 1860, but it began back in, the tradition of the class, the freshman class going up in 1962. So a wonderful tradition, and it took them in 1962 12 minutes to get that challenge done, get to the top. They have made it more difficult in the years and decades since. The fastest recorded climb, just a minute and a half. So that's
wild.
They've been at it now for, I don't know, a couple hours, I believe.
Let's see, the stream, I think, started...
We came in around...
This stream that we're taking this from started 2 hours ago.
Okay,
now, I don't know if it started immediately 2 hours ago, but they've been going at it for a while, safe to say.
It must be tiring.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, there you have it. Class of 2028, your future sailors for the U.S. Naval Academy.
Our future line of defense.
That's right.
That's what it is.
This is part of the
tradition.
The tradition, yeah. Traditions are fun. All in good fun. Everyone stays safe, and they'll get to the top.
Yeah. Oh, I know I've asked you this. You never did any sort of grease pole, anything growing up like that?
No, Carlene, I didn't. But you said you might. You tried. Where'd you go?
Down in Charleston area, there's something called a Halloween extravaganza every year. And every year there's a grease pole, and they put a couple $100s at the top of it. And people try. I tried once, and I mean, I'm not even a climber. I had no business doing it at all.
Well, you're also tall, so you would make a good base.
Yeah, sure.
Is it a co-ed climb?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anybody can go. And I've seen someone do it once. Because they shellac that thing up with so much grease and lard.
They just buy up the Crisco.
Crisco, yeah.
Well, this is a sight to behold, and you can see
these are kids in
the hoses
peak
that
shape.
They're in shape. They're lithe and lean, and next time you visit the yard there, just take a look at the monument. That is the scene for so many young men. The rite of passage part of it, I suppose. But we'll keep this up here for a while. Take a look. Is there any sound?
Let me see.
well, it looks like they were able to wipe a little layer, another edge off there of lard as the class of 2028.
Look at how thick it is up there, too.
It is kind of gross.
It is kind of gross.
But he used the arm as a windshield wiper.
We just
Wiped a little bit off, and
they just need some stunt. I had cheer experience, so some stunting right now would really come in handy.
You could use some pyramids.
Yes, we did stunts.
Those three-person. Well, they are now are they 3 men high
Let me move the super for a second. Oh yeah, that's
okay.
3 tiers.
Yeah, all right, that's good. I mean, it's a 21-foot monument.
Yeah.
So this has been going on now, what, 2 hours,
At
Carlene?
least 2 hours.
A sight to behold, right? We got a note from the newsroom from Anders.
Oh yeah, someone looked up at our screen and was like, "What am I watching?"
Didn't you know?
It's tradition.
This is the U.S. Naval Academy.
This is our future line of defense.
Okay. That monument there, though, it's one of the icons of the U.S. Academy on campus right there. So Herndon Monument, since 1860 it's been standing there, and this
Beautiful campus.
It looks amazing. And so this is the tradition for the freshman class to do the right thing and climb.
And climb. And climb they will.
Wipe down the lard and see how long it takes for them to get to the top. A tradition since 1962. So now you know. All right, we'll continue to monitor things. We'll put this in a 3-box here, but I wanted to switch gears right now and take you out to a live meeting that is happening. This is the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Departments of Labor, Health and Human Services. They're holding a budget hearing. We expect to hear from Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the department's fiscal year 26 budget request. So this is out of D.C. This is live now on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Every level. The public is outraged at the enormous harms you have wrought. Dozens of courts have put restraining orders on the administration's actions, but the courts can only play defense. Republicans in this Congress could stop the mayhem, the chaos, and the destruction today if they had the courage. But they remain silent, petrified of the president's scorn, revenge, and retaliation. Those of us who serve in elected office, we are blessed, and we have the power to do something. We know what's right and we know what's wrong, and we understand the harm being wrought on the American people. We need to stand up, not be afraid. This is the time to meet the moment. As a top Democrat on the Appropriations Committee, I will never stop fighting against this dangerous dismantling of Health and Human Services and its agencies, which is jeopardizing the health, the safety, and the well-being of millions of America's families. Thank you. I look forward to your testimony and to the important conversations we will have in this hearing this morning. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Secretary, we look forward to your opening remarks. You're now recognized. Of course, your written statement will be included for the record, but you have the floor, and we look forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Ranking Member DeLauro and members of the committee. I'm honored to appear before you today to present the Department of Health and Human Services fiscal year 2026 budget. Debilitating disease, contaminated food, toxic environments, addiction, mental health illness affect families across every race, class, and political belief. When my team and I took the helm at HHS, we set out with clear goals. First, we aimed to make America healthy again, with a special focus on the chronic disease epidemic. Second, we committed to delivering more efficient, responsive, and effective services to the over 100 million Americans who rely on Medicare, Medicaid, and other programs. Third, we focused on achieving these goals while cutting costs to taxpayers. We intend to do more, a lot more, with less. The budget I'm presenting today supports these goals and reflects two enduring American values: compassion and responsibility. I invite the committee to unite around these ideals with me. The United States remains the sickest developed nation, and we spend $4.5 trillion annually on health care. 2 to 3 times more per capita than comparable nations. Clearly, something is structurally and systemically wrong with our approach. Furthermore, healthcare costs are steadily increasing at a rate 2% greater than the economy. If we don't staunch this unsustainable hemorrhage, we will ransom our children to bankruptcy, servitude, and disastrous health consequences. Yes, an exploding debt is a social determinant of health. We won't solve this problem by throwing more money at it. We must spend smarter. We will shift funding away from bureaucracy toward direct impact. Some things at HHS will not change. We will preserve legacy programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Head Start as the foundation of the MAHA agenda. Vulnerable populations, seniors, and veterans deserve consistent access to care, and I will ensure that they receive it. Today, 83 million Americans, urban and rural, lack adequate access to primary care physicians. We will prioritize these families, especially Native Americans and Alaskan communities. We will protect IHS funding, streamline its operations, and give the tribes more autonomy for managing their resources. Let me be clear, we intend to make the Trump HHS not just the most effective, but also the most compassionate in U.S. history. Our official budget statement outlines many priorities, but I will highlight a few. First, we will consolidate programs to better tackle mental health and addiction. These issues now rival chronic disease in their impact. HHS will aggressively combat the opioid crisis, especially the spread of synthetic drugs like fentanyl. We will empower state, local, and tribal leaders to create effective solutions. Second, we will address nutrition, physical activity, and healthy lifestyles. The President's budget requests $94 billion in discretionary funds to support these priorities, including the Administration for a Healthy America. We will emphasize healthy eating and Head Start and ensure the program continues to serve its 750,000 children and parents effectively. Third, we will equip the FDA to expand its food safety efforts through research, regulations, independence, and education to remove harmful chemicals from food and packaging. And we're already doing this more aggressively than any other administration in history. We will fund cutting-edge research at the NIH while cutting risky or non-essential services. That includes ending of gain-of-function experiments and research based upon radical gender ideology. At the CDC, we'll return to its core missions, tracking disease, investigating outbreaks, and sustaining public health infrastructure while cutting waste. And I'll add, in response to your critique about the measles, we are doing a better job at CDC today than any nation in the world at controlling this measles outbreak. I'm happy to elaborate on that afterward. Fifth, we will eliminate DEI funding and redirect resources toward real poverty reduction. We will move beyond lip service to communities of color and take meaningful action to meet their needs. Six, we will strengthen cybersecurity and health IT. The AI revolution has arrived, and we are already using these new technologies to manage healthcare data more efficiently and securely. Finally, we will rebuild public trust that eroded through years of industry capture, corruption, waste, and misplaced priorities, including by some of the gentlemen that you just mentioned, Ranking Member. We will launch a new era of transparency in public service, creating an honest, science-driven HHS that answers to the President, to Congress, and to the American people. I look forward to working with Congress to pursue this mission together as a bipartisan cause. Let's work side by side to make America healthy again.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We have another committee meeting of which I'm the ranking member. I will be back, but I didn't want Mr. Kennedy to think Secretary Kennedy walking out.
Duly noted.
I welcome your absence, Congressman Hoyer.
I'll be back.
All right, thank you, Ms. Secretary. I will begin. I mentioned in my open remarks that I appreciate your commitment to upholding the sanctity of human life in your capacity as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The pro-life community was deeply concerned by numerous actions that was taken during the Biden administration that undermined the right to life and the conscience of rights of pro-life Americans. For example, the Center for Disease Control revealed at the end of the Biden administration that the CDC funded nurses in Mozambique were performing abortions that violated the Helms Act, which prohibits U.S. foreign aid from funding abortions. In addition to that, the Biden administration punished states by denying them Title X funding for refusing to provide abortion counseling in violation of state law. Can you talk to us for a couple of minutes or whatever about steps that you see the department are now taking to protect the right to life and the conscience right?
We just finished watching RFK Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services, with his opening statements for a House budget hearing there for the lawmakers. And we'll be dipping into that here. Want to take you up now to an interview with a special guest as we are approaching 10 o'clock on this Wednesday morning here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. We have been talking about mental health. We had the mental health phone bank yesterday, and today, right now, we're talking about worker burnout. It happens every now and then, certainly, but we want to bring in now John Woods from University of Phoenix because we're looking at this long-term, including workforce shortages and retention challenges as this is happening. John, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me on. How are you doing today?
Oh, doing well. Rested somewhat. I know that that's one of the cures for worker burnout. But let's talk to University of Phoenix's Career of Optimism Index first of all. What is that about?
Yeah, it's a survey we conduct every year. We have done it now for 5 years. And it's a survey where we discern what's happening with American workers in terms of their thoughts, their perceptions about their career prospects. At the same time, we also conduct the survey interviewing employers. And in interviewing both groups, we're able to identify some similarities and differences, some places where the groups are on the same page and some where they're not. And there's usually a big theme that comes through every year. And the theme this year, as you said, is that workers are feeling a sense of burnout. In fact, 51% are saying that, which is a record for the years that we've been conducting this survey. And it's really driven, the other data in the survey tell us, by a lack of career control that workers are feeling.
Well, how can organizations create more sustainable solutions or even a work environment that benefit both the employer and employee?
Yeah, it is the Career Optimism Index. So workers, we measure their optimism, and they are still very hopeful about their careers. 79% say they're hopeful and they feel positive about their careers, but there are things they identify that employers can be doing to help them. The number one thing that we found is that employers who offer opportunities for workers to reskill or upskill, that doing so makes workers feel more engaged, makes workers feel more valuable, makes them more resilient, less likely to feel burnout. And a benefit to employers is if workers feel better, they're less likely to disengage and potentially go elsewhere. So that's a bit of the recipe here for helping workers feel a bit more control of their careers.
Then, John, is the onus on employers to provide that environment?
Yeah, workers who feel like they're progressing in their careers, that they're getting developed, that they're getting upskilled, reskilled, are about 35% less likely to feel burnout, and therefore a big contributing factor, less likely to be an attrition risk. So employers do have a lot of responsibility for providing those opportunities for training and development, and many do. However, our survey indicates that that's trending down slightly over the last few years. So it's an investment well worth making, we think.
Yeah, I was just going to say then hopefully the future provides a little bit more of a positive outlook, and it sounds like it's going to be a slow progress, but at least progress nonetheless.
Yeah, with some of the changes we're seeing in the world of work around automation and artificial intelligence, we think that there's a lot of opportunity for organizations to upskill and reskill their workers to take advantage of those technologies so that people are less fearful of them and fearful that there'll be factors that contribute to them being replaced.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those challenges when it comes to mental health, our environment at work and being a professional. Where can people, employers or employees, go get more information or resources?
Yeah, there's a ton of data people can look at in this survey, the Career Optimism Index, again, and it can be found at phoenix.edu/career-institute.
John Woods from the University of Phoenix joining us this morning and talking about an important issue facing workers and employers alike. Thank you so much for shedding a little light this morning.
Thanks for having me on today.
You bet. All right, we bring it back out here in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. Just want to take you out live now to Qatar. We were waiting for the president to sign a document. This is on, there's no audio on this, but it looks like he is participating in a signing ceremony in Qatar with his counterpart. So just want to take a look there live. I'll dip in, just see if we have any gnat sound there. No? All right. Just a little photo op for you. Live pictures there as President Trump is in the Mideast all week. And after Saudi Arabia yesterday, now in Qatar. All right, let's go back out to Washington, D.C. as we are listening in to RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, speak on a budget for the fiscal year of 2026. Let's listen in here live on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
You say you want to quote, and I quote, rescale our biomedical research budget, unquote. Excuse me, but that's BS. You are not rescaling NIH research. You are proposing to cut it by $20 billion. And according to our colleagues in the Senate, NIH has effectively cut research funding by $2.7 billion this year in comparison to the same period last year. That's a cut of 35% during that period. That includes cutting cancer research by 31%. This is the report put out by the Senate.
All right, it looks like that the mic situation is on and they have audio. Let's go ahead and listen here live in Qatar with President Trump in a signing ceremony. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
In particular, the trade is the, Kelly's telling me from Boeing, it's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good. And that's 140, was that a 140 or 160? Well, yeah, but you're right. It's actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets, that's fantastic. So that's a record, Kelly, and congratulations to Boeing. Get those planes out there. Get them out there. But I just want to thank you. We've been friends for a long time, long before politics. Well, for you it was politics. For me it wasn't, right? But we've been friends for a long time, and this is an outstanding man. He's a great man, and we're going to help each other. The United States is in a very strong position militarily. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. You're buying a lot of that equipment, actually, and I think we're going to see some of it in action tomorrow at the, we won't call it an air fair, but it's going to be sort of an air fair. We're going to be shown a display that's going to be incredible. They have the latest and the greatest of our planes and just about everything else. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun and very interesting. But I just want to thank you for the friendship, for the long-time friendship. And again, long before any of this stuff, we just liked each other. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But we always had a very special relationship. And we came from Saudi Arabia, where we have another great man over there that's a friend of yours. And you two guys get along so well and like each other. You sort of remind me a little bit of each other, if you want to know the truth. They're both tall, handsome guys that happened to be very smart, but he's also a very special guy, and it's good to see all the relationships forming in the Middle East, because the Middle East is really being talked about all over the world, and we're having a lot to do with it. We're helping a lot, but they're doing a tremendous job. So I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. I want to thank the media. The media has been very fair, actually, and it's a great honor to be with you. This is, you take a look at this room. This room is the real deal. That's called white marble. It's very hard to buy. Believe me, I know very well, because you try to buy it, you can't buy it. And you just take a look at what you have here. It's been incredible what you've been able to build as a nation. And we're with you all the way, and you know that.
Thank you. The ceremony has now come to an end.
As I said, ranking member, if you appropriate the money, I'm going to spend that money.
The money has been appropriated, so the answer to that is if you're not willing to accept the funds that have been lawfully voted by members of the House and Senate on the money for the National Institutes of Health. Well, I'm going to hold you to your word that that funding is there. It should be transferred from 24 to 25, and you've cut already $20 billion. Let's get that money back. Let's get that money back. You have an obligation to carry out the law and to implement what the Congress has done. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Chronic disease and tobacco. Tobacco use is a major contributor to chronic disease and is a leading preventable cause of death in our nation. Each year, killing nearly 500,000 Americans, costing the nation nearly $250 billion in health care costs. CDC's tips from former smokers' media campaign alone is estimated to have saved more than $7 billion in health care costs by helping more than 1 million smokers quit. Why did you eliminate CDC's Office of Smoking and Health, an office that reduces the number of kids using tobacco products, helps order tobacco users to quit, and saves taxpayers dollars?
We have, under the reorganization, and I'm going to talk very, very broadly, because as of 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we are under a court order not to do any further planning on the reorganization. And I've been advised by my attorneys and not to talk about it. But I will just say broadly, many of the programs that the Democrats are now saying were cut at CDC were not cut at all. Those programs were transferred to the Administration for Healthy America. But I'm not permitted to talk in any more detail because of a court order.
I know we're just dealing with words. You transfer it here, there's less money overall for the agency, therefore there's less money for the programs. In both 2024, 2025, Congress, again, power of the purse resides here, appropriated $246 million for CDC's tobacco prevention programs. Do you commit to following the law again, fully obligating those funds so that we can help adults who want to quit using tobacco and prevent teens from becoming addicted?
Allow me to answer that by pointing out the absolute cataclysmic disorganization of this agency under your oversight for 40 years. We had 9 separate offices of women's health. When we consolidate them, the Democrats say we're eliminating them. We're not. We're still appropriating the $3.7 billion, but we're not keeping all 9. We had 8 separate offices for minority health. We eliminated 1. We had 27 HIV offices.
Okay, let me just, I'm going to interrupt.
We had 59 behavioral health
right.
programs.
I'm well over time. If you could just get us what has been eliminated, why you're doing it, and the criteria by which the elimination has occurred. That is information that this committee needs in order to be able to do our job in terms of appropriating funds. Thank you.
And we will gladly provide that to you, but right now we're under a court order that prohibits us from doing so.
Okay, before we go on, I just want to say, we also need to make sure that we bear in mind that the Secretary is here talking about FY26 funding. So he is committed to that. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear. We're talking about FY26 on this. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here, and thanks for taking on what is a huge task. You've done that before in your history, and I look forward to, most of the people I talk to are in favor of MAHA and making America healthy again. I agree with a lot of the things you've said. Some of the things I question, want to see more studies on. And there's probably a couple in there that I might disagree with, but that's okay. Opening this debate of how we can make America healthy again is very important. Let me ask a couple questions. I chair the Interior Committee that funds Indian Health Services, which is in your department. I noticed in your opening statement you want to maintain the level of funding for Indian Health Services to keep the promises that we've made to our Native American, Alaska Natives. That's not just a promise, that's a legal obligation we have with those. Those are treaty rights. So we've been doing a great deal in my bill, increasing funding for Indian Health Services. We also did something that was called forward appropriations so that they have appropriated a year in advance, because we found that during shutdowns and those kind of things, they weren't protected like other health organizations were and stuff. Your skinny budget, and I haven't seen your full budget yet. Do you maintain that forward appropriation for Indian Health Services?
Yeah, yes, Congressman. I want to point out, I spent 20% of my career working on tribal issues, on representing the tribes in treaty negotiations and litigation against big polluters in the extractive industry and others. I was one of the founding editors of Indian Country Today, which is the largest Indian newspaper in Indian Country. And it's been an issue that I've been committed to my whole life. I fought successfully to exempt the Indian Health Service from the probationary freezes, from the fork in the road, the early retirement, from the RIFs, and from all of the downsizing. And I also made an opportunity that people who at my agency who lost their jobs in other parts of the agency from the RIFs, et cetera, could transfer to Indian Health Service, because Indian Health Service is chronically understaffed. It's very, very difficult to find competent personnel who will move to Indian Country or to distant locations. Right. I'm committed to protecting it. I'm committed to working with you to make sure that that we can finally make this work for a population that is not only probably among the most aggrieved in our history, but also a population that suffers more from chronic disease, that has the shortest lifespan, the highest rates of diabetes, the highest rates of alcoholism of any other population. And one of my big priorities will be getting good food, high quality food and traditional foods onto the reservation, because processed food for American Indians is poison.
Yep, they're finding that the way to attack diabetes on reservations, which have the highest rate, is by going back to their traditional foods.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. The Pima Indians were blue zone in Arizona, the longest lived people on the continent. Today, they're among the shortest lived. I think the lifespan is around 47 years old. The highest rate of diabetes, second in the world. Yep. About 80% of adults are diabetic, have chronic obesity. Right across the border in Mexico, there are Pima Indians who are still long-lived, have no diabetes, no heart disease, no obesity, because they're not being fed ultra-processed food. Ultra-processed food is a genocide on the American Indian, and we have to end it.
Yeah, I agree. One other subject that I want to talk about is the reorganization of NIH into fewer institutes. There are some institutes that are concerned that they're going to be left out of this reorganization. The Division of Oral Health at the CDC is concerned about the lack of focus on oral health. Will you commit that preserving the congressionally appropriated funding and upholding the autonomy of the National Institutes of Dental Craniofacial Research and other institutes until Congress completes a thorough review of the NIH restructuring?
I don't know what the OMB budget says about dental health, but I can tell you that I am deeply committed to dental health. There are so much new science out there that shows how dental health is intricately related to health in the rest of the body, to the microbiome, to the brain health. So, we want to do those kind of studies to make sure that we understand that, and we need to make a big commitment to dental health.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you on that and making sure that, most diseases can actually express themselves in the oral cavity first.
Yes.
It can be detected there. I am concerned about the fluoride issue. I've seen the benefits, having been a practicing dentist for 22 years. I just noticed this morning that the FDA brings action to remove ingestible fluoride prescription drug products for children from the market. And as I'm reading through this, I want to see some of these studies, but it says the best way to prevent cavities in children is by avoiding excessive sugar intake and good dental hygiene, obvious. Then it says, for the same reason that fluoride may kill bacteria on teeth, it may also kill intestinal bacteria important to children's health. I would tell you, you don't prevent cavities by fluoride killing the bacteria in the mouth. What it does is make the enamel more resistant to decay. So I want to see the studies on this and where we're headed with this. And I will tell you that if you are successful in banning fluoride, I noticed you congratulated Utah and Florida, I think, for banning it. That's up to them. They can do what they want. But we better put a lot more money into dental education because we're going to need a whole lot more dentists.
I think that, Marty McCary's concern with ingestible fluoride is that the emerging science shows the benefits to of fluoride to caries and to cavity prevention comes from topical exposures rather than it was once thought that it was systemic, that if you ingested it, that the benefit came from that. We now know that virtually all the benefit is from topical, and we can get that through mouthwashes, we can get through fluoridated toothpastes. The National Toxicity Program issued a report in August, a meta-review of all the science that now exists on fluoride, and showed a direct inverse correlation between fluoride exposure, dose-related, and lower IQ. It's an issue that we have to all be concerned with. We want high IQ kids.
Mr. Hoyer,
right now.
Mr. Hoyer.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you on it.
Okay.
As promised, I returned.
You and MacArthur.
Yeah, me and MacArthur. I'm not going to ask questions about specific issues about which I'm very concerned. I subscribe, frankly, to the remarks that Mr. DeLauro, our ranking member, made, however, Mr. Secretary, with reference to my concerns about what is happening. First of all, let me ask you this.
Sorry about that.
You submit a budget, it goes to OMB, the president will submit it to us, and Congress passes a budget, sends it to the president, presumably the president signs it. Once that happens, do you consider that budget that Congress passes to be a suggestion or directive?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's the president's budget, and my duty is to defend it. It's Congress's choice about whether or not they're going to fund. Congress appropriates the funding. Congressman, there's no agency head that I know of that wants to see his agency gutted or his budget lowered. There's tremendous waste in my agency. It grew by 38% during the Biden administration, and public health went down.
Okay, I got 5 minutes.
But I just say this. President Trump has a broader vision than me, which is that the $2 trillion we're spending a year that we don't have is landing on our children. That is a health crisis for them.
Mr. Secretary, my question to you respectfully was, do you believe it is a suggestion or a mandate? This is a very important issue, which we differ greatly with the administration and with Mr. Musk, that willy-nilly, without Congress's approval, they can remove things, take things away, defund things, fire people. That is not my proposition. I want to know whether it is your proposition. You've answered in the sense that once the budget is adopted, you need to carry it out. Now, whether that was President Trump that signed that budget or President Biden that signed that budget, I presume your premise is the same. Is that correct?
I don't know whether you're asking me a rhetorical question, because I think it's
No, it's not a
self-evident.
rhetorical question. It's whether or not you think once the Congress says we're going to spend X number of dollars on X objective, Y objective, that you will follow that.
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer I wanted.
Incidentally, that happens throughout history. You know, the Republican.
No, throughout history, Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, you and I know this. Mr. Nixon said that was not the law. That he could take whatever and he took it as a suggestion, and he wanted to impound. And he did impound in the early 70s. And we passed an act that said you can't do that. Then the Supreme Court heard that case. And very frankly, one of the most conservative judges, Justice Scalia, said President Nixon, the Mahatma Gandhi of all impounders, asserted at a press conference in 1973 that his constitutional right to impound appropriated funds was absolutely clear. Scalia went on to say, our decision 2 years later in Train versus City of New York proved him wrong. That opinion has been reiterated by the Supreme Court subsequent to that decision. This is a critically important issue because there are conflicting opinions. We will try to come to consensus on that. The president has to sign the budget unless we override his veto of the budget. That becomes the law. We think, and a lot of courts over the last 2 months have decided that that law is not being followed. So that was my point. Now, let me ask you something. You've reduced the department by 20,000 people, as I understand it. You've been quoted as saying some of those firings were mistakes. In fact, of course, Musk fired 70% of the people when he bought Twitter and then brought a large number of them back because he found out, as you point out, not that with respect to that, but with respect to these 20,000 people, there were mistakes. My question to you is, have you had an analysis prior to making those decisions, or Mr. Musk making those decisions? And I ask you first, who made those decisions, you or Musk?
They were made, I mean, ultimately, we executed the decisions.
I know you executed them, but my question is,
Elon Musk gave us help in figuring out where there was waste, fraud, and abuse in the department. But it was up to me to make the decision. And there are many instances where I pushed back and said, we don't want to, that would hurt us to eliminate that group.
Let me ask you a question based upon that response. Was there an analysis of the consequences of these cuts and the reduction in force and elimination of programs? Was there an analysis that you can provide the committee that indicated those, as you concluded in your statement, would not harm people, would not undermine, frankly, the people who are being served, the health care not delivered, people not served, children not educated, research not accomplished, frankly, lives not saved? Is there an analysis that you can provide to this committee prior to us determining the budget that will show that, in fact, those cuts will not be harmful to those objectives?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there were analysis. The simplest analysis was at the outset, the analysis that we're spending $2 trillion a year that we don't have.
Mr. Musk said he was going to cut $2 trillion.
Spending $2 trillion more than you have to make cuts. The other analysis that was more detailed is that
children or the Indians that you're so concerned about?
We didn't cut the Indians. We didn't cut the Indian
that.
services.
I'm asking you, you said we have to cut.
I made sure that those services were not cut. I made sure that Head Start was not cut. But the cuts that were done were cuts that were to duplication, to redundancy, to streamlining. We increased our workforce 70% in 4 years, so we were going back to the 2019 levels.
Mr. Reagan,
and I would ask.
Mr. Reagan said he was going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. He increased the budget deficit by 189%, the highest of any president in history.
No analysis.
We're allotted 5 minutes, and I am trying to be lenient, instead of cutting somebody off in mid-sentence. But if y'all could be respectful to me so that we can sort of wrap up when I start tapping. So anyway, let me recognize Mr. Flashman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, good morning. I'm Chuck Flashman. I represent the 3rd District of Tennessee. That's East Tennessee, Chattanooga, Oak Ridge. I want to thank you for stepping up in this important role and serving our great president, President Trump, in all of your endeavors. I want to begin with a thank you, because I am going to have some questions later about some other issues, but thanking you for the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation under HHS, what it does with Oak Ridge, which was the birthplace of the Manhattan Project, Oak Ridge National Laboratory in my district. It works to make sure that the Energy Employee Occupational Illness Compensation Program at the Department of Energy is run well, and it is. This keeps our hardworking civilian employees insured and cared for long after their years of service. So that's a profound thank you to you and yours for running that so well. Mr. Secretary, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Food and Drug Administration. That is under my dear colleague and friend Andy Harris's jurisdiction. I chair Energy and Water. But while I have you here, Mr. Secretary, I know the FDA has taken significant steps to ban or phase out synthetic food colorings over the years, and I respect that. The current colors, though, Mr. Secretary, that are used and have been approved by FDA have been deemed safe for many years. Candidly, I represent many snack manufacturers. I'm a big fan of the oatmeal cream pie. And in many ways, I have M&Ms in my district. I know you're going to come and visit me in a couple of weeks. We can all have some M&Ms and Little Debbie's together. But on a very serious note, we want to make sure that FDA has done due diligence to ensure the safety of these replacement colors. Will you work with me on that? Because candidly, I think these dyes are safe. They've been approved, but really trying to find substitutes. The costs, we've seen estimates 5 to 10 times try to fix that. Will you work with me on that, sir?
Yeah, absolutely, Congressman. And one of the, I think, the really important accomplishments that we've done over the past 100 days is we've been working with the food industry, and we found the food industry very, very receptive. We think we have good science that links almost all of these dyes with ADHD, with neurological injury, with cancer. And they've agreed to phase out the 2 worst of them, which is orange bee and red citrus number 3, within 2 months, and the other 7 dyes within 2 years. And some of the food companies like Tyson's Food have already eliminated them because of our talks. They asked us to do one thing. They said, can we try to fast track the vegetable dye substitutes that we need? And we have fast tracked those, and we've already got them approved. So we have 3 dyes approved this week that are substitute dyes that can be used by the food industry. And we're going to continue to respond to the needs of the food industry. We're going to continue to work with them, and I'm happy to work with you, Congressman.
And I thank you. I thank you for your question and your answer and your response. Mr. Secretary, I wanted to talk with you about this subcommittee's oversight of the 340B drug discount program. I'm a strong supporter of that. I have hospitals in my district. It provides funding to safety net community health centers, hospitals, and other healthcare providers with discounts from prescription drug sales. CHCs and rural hospitals across Tennessee have become dependent upon this program. Just a question, sir. We've heard that this department will move oversight from HRSA to CMS. Can you either confirm or deny that, sir?
I can't because of the court order, but I can tell you, the 340B program, as you know, is it's not a straightforward program because it was originally intended for 100 institutions that were serving very poor communities. It's now grown to 27,000 institutions. The patients themselves seldom get the benefits of the drug reduction, and actually 100,000 if you look at all the kind of satellite institutions. But we also recognize that it is the lifeblood of rural hospitals right now. So we can't mess with that program without giving those rural hospitals something else that is going to support them, and we understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
I can tell you that the drug companies are worried because if we do what President Trump wants, which is, through compliance with the executive order to go to most favored nation, it will lower the price of all drugs, which means it will further lower the cost of 340B drugs, and they consider that existential. So that is a problem that we all need to work out together.
Mr. Pocan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. I'm Mark Pocan. I represent the 2nd Congressional District in Wisconsin. All are part of 6 counties in south central Wisconsin. I don't know you, and I think it's important to have a good working relationship with you because of everything that you have. There's a lot of jurisdiction. You've definitely got your hands full with a lot. Some things I think we agree on, and some things I'm not sure if we do. So I'm really trying to explore a little bit of that. I think some things that we agree on, and you brought it up, you want to have a special focus on chronic disease, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And one that maybe Chuck and I disagree a little bit on, but I support what you're doing on ultra-processed foods, on food dyes and other junk chemicals, and promoting healthier diets. That's another focus, correct?
Yes.
And also, I think you're supporting and making it easier to access non-pharmaceutical, in other words, natural remedies as part of a person's healthcare decision.
Yes.
And one I didn't have on the list, but I heard you tell Mr. Simpson on dental care. I have a constituent who, because of an infection with a tooth, is now getting Meals on Wheels and his health is destroyed. So I appreciate that as well.
Yes.
So in trying to get to know you, there's some public things that, make you somewhat of a conundrum to people like me, just trying to, understand. One is on vaccines, and I don't want to ask you about, all the specific theories on vaccines, but something that might be helpful is you've previously said you vaccinated your children. Just because I think this is a helpful answer, and this isn't a gotcha, I promise. If you had a child today, would you vaccinate that child for measles?
For measles, probably for measles. What I would say is my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. I have directed Jay Bhattacharya.
Sure. No, like I said, I don't want to.
So that everybody can make that decision. But I don't want to seem like I'm being evasive.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me.
Right. No, I got that. And I'm not asking you to give them medical advice, but would you vaccinate your child for measles?
If I answer that question directly, that it will seem like I'm giving advice to other people, and I don't want to be doing that. I want people to make
but that's kind of your jurisdiction because CDC does give advice, right? I'm not trying to do it as a gotcha. I was just kind of.
I think what we're going to try to do is to lay out the pros and cons, the risks and benefits accurately as we understand them with replicable studies.
Can you talk about chickenpox? Would you vaccinate your child against chickenpox?
I don't want to give advice. I can tell you in Europe, they don't use the chickenpox vaccine specifically because the preclinical trial shows that when you inoculate the population for chickenpox, you get shingles in older people, which is more dangerous.
Just one last one, just a yes or no, please, if we could. Polio?
Polio? Again, I don't want to be giving advice.
That's fair. No, that's fair. Like I said, I was not doing it as a gotcha. I was just, I thought it could be helpful if, So let me ask this on the 988 hotline. In your budget, you have eliminated, there was a special button you could press for LGBTQ plus youth. I'm an openly gay man. I deal with a lot of organizations that deal with this. The suicide rate among LGBT youth is 4 times nationally the rate of other youth. This is one where I hope that we could try to, like Chuck asked, work together to try to see if we could have a conversation about not eliminating this because, unfortunately, because of the bullying that's out there, because of, honestly, adults bullying, both in Congress and state legislators, these kids are often at unique risk, and having that specific button they can push helps them to be able to get that service. Is that something we could talk about, at least trying to?
I'm happy to talk to you about it, and I love the way that you approach this in a way that, rather than attacking me, is, reaching out. And, I'd love that from other Democrats because I think we have a lot to talk about. As you know, and, I like that you.
Just because I am short on time.
The 988 line is, was created by President Trump. He believes strongly in it. reasonably
if I can,
remove that button is
Mr.
because we don't
Secretary.
want to isolate
Yeah, I get you.
different demographics and polarize our country. Everybody
Yeah.
on that line is trained in cultural sensitivities.
Sure. I got you.
And-
I just would love to talk to you because I think this is a unique one, and I respect that we can
I'm
have a
happy to
conversation.
talk to you. You can pick
Last one, just because I'm down to 22 seconds. I lost a little
Okay.
time there. Medicare Advantage. I know you know the Trump administration is going after waste, fraud, and abuse. This is a program we get a lot of constituent complaints on. It costs more than Medicare. It was intended to find savings. It doesn't. In fact, I think the current estimate is $80 billion in overpayments have gone to private insurers. Are you committed to, one, going after those overpayments, and two, if Medicare Advantage isn't more cost-effective, would we have a conversation about either eliminating the program or making it more effective?
Medicare Advantage, I mean, I definitely want to go after the waste, fraud, and abuse in the private sector. There's 30 million people who want Medicare Advantage. I have Medicare Advantage. It works very well for me. I like it.
But it costs more, and that's the point. It does.
I mean, I think our administrative costs are still far less than private industry.
But it costs more than Medicare. That's my point. So that's all I was
Yeah,
trying to
but the services are much better.
Okay. Another thing, if we can talk about and continue the
Okay, well,
conversation.
why
I
don't
am
we talk
sincere about
about it?
wanting having a working
I'm happy to
relationship
talk
with
to you
you,
about
Mr.
it.
Secretary. Thank
Thanks.
you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Bice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being with us this morning. I first want to address a comment that was made by the ranking member earlier as it relates to getting the president's budget out. Just a reminder that when President Biden was elected, he did not send out his first presidential budget until May 28th of 2021. So giving some grace to a new administration, I think, is warranted. I want to take a minute to highlight the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, or for short, OMRF. OMRF was chartered nearly 79 years ago and started out with 18 scientists on staff. They now have more than 475 scientists.
At which?
It's the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, and I've actually given your team some information. Last month, I was proud to attend a ribbon cutting for their new Biomedical Data Sciences Center, which will provide computing and data analysis capabilities to support scientists in researching very important areas, including heart disease, cancer, and autoimmune diseases. This center cements OMRF as a leader in research methods and as a hub for collaboration in my district. It is important that OMRF continue their partnership with HHS in their research to expand life expectancy and healthcare outcomes across the nation. The impact that OMRF has had on Oklahoma and the country is really immeasurable. It ranged from certainly economic impacts to healthcare advancements, community engagement. The positive impacts are endless. And I want to mention them because, I want to make sure that we're investing in the right things. Like you and President Trump, I am focused on reducing the prevalence of chronic diseases. And the discoveries that they have made over the last many years have produced 3 life-changing drugs. Most recently, in 2019, the FDA approved the first targeted therapy to treat sickle cell disease. And this is based on discoveries by OMRF researchers. The point being here, Mr. Secretary, OMRF has been crucial in advancing research and treatment of chronic disease and rare diseases for millions. And they take pride in being one of 7 NIH autoimmune centers of excellence. And I hope you and your team will continue to work with OMRF so they can continue the positive impact in Oklahoma and across the country to make America healthy again. That being said, in order for the U.S. to maintain its lead in biotechnology, we need to ensure that the U.S. continues to be the country of choice for best and brightest in the field. What will HHS do to help attract biotech researchers?
Well, we spend already, at this juncture, 70% of the research funding in the world on biotech and biomedical research is coming from my agency. And we understand that it's our aspiration that the United States remain the hub of biotechnology around the globe. We need to change some of the FDA policies to make it, to give a faster track for biotechnologies to get approved. We're working on that now. We're trying to reform phase 3 studies, for example, which are the longest, the most expensive to do a lot of those functions by AI. We're phasing out most animal studies at NIH and FDA, which again is a very expensive part of the process. And because we can accomplish a lot of those goals on safety and efficacy with AI technologies. We brought the best AI developers in the country into HHS. Nothing like this has ever happened before. People walking away from billion-dollar concerns to come and work for us to transform our agency into a central hub for AI on the globe. And a lot of that, those changes are designed to make it easier and faster to get, biotechnology to market.
Perfect. Can you talk a little bit about the changes at NIH in particular? I know that there's been a lot of conversation around that. Certainly streamlining is part of that. But can you talk a little bit more about what your vision is for NIH moving forward?
Well, NIH, when I was a kid, NIH was the premier gold standard scientific institution in the world. Over the years, it was captured by industry and by, I think, a kind of ossification that happened at NIH. Because of the longevity of some of the leadership there. And there was a tremendous amount of corruption. And, part of that corruption is we now have the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Energy, and the Department of State all saying that the COVID-19 pandemic came out of research that was then sent over to China, and that was the end point. We also have the sickest people in the world. NIH, with the best science, is supposed to be protecting. We should be the healthiest people in the world. We're switching the trajectory so that we're going to really focus narrowly on chronic disease, ending the chronic disease epidemic, and then we're going to make sure that the science cannot be corrupted. That every scientific study is replicated, that the raw data for those studies is published, that the peer review for those studies is published. And we're going to focus on making sure that we get to younger scientists rather than the old boys network. And I could talk to you about scientific corruption all day long, about horror stories that we know have happened within NIH. One of those, probably the worst, is the amyloid plaque scandal. For 20 years, because of utter corruption and fraud, we were directing Alzheimer's research to one hypothesis, and any other hypothesis was shut down. We should have the cure for Alzheimer's today. We don't have it purely because of corruption at NIH.
Ms. Frankel.
We are going to have it quickly.
Ms.
Thank you,
Frankel.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Before I ask my questions, I just want to make this statement. Draconian abortion restrictions are killing and maiming women, and that is a tragedy. You don't need to respond to that. I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to try to ask my questions as kindly as possible. Do not take them personally. In the past, I believe...
I won't take your kindness personally.
Okay, well, whatever. You know what they say, if you can't take a joke, don't go into politics. So let me start by saying, in the past, I have believed very strongly in the mission of the Department of Health and Human Services. Funding this department should be one of our highest priorities because if it's run correctly, it has the power to save lives, advance life-changing research, and protect the health and well-being of our families, especially our most vulnerable, our children, our seniors. But to be straightforward, as my colleagues know, in other words, I am deeply wary of giving $1 to this administration under the current leadership, especially because it seems to be a disregard of science and, most importantly, ignoring the body of government that appropriates funding. That's us, the Congress. In just a few short months, we've seen a level of chaos and destruction. I compare it to a tornado hitting a populated community. Without the consent of Congress, which appropriated funds with Elon Musk's chainsaw, medical research has been gutted, clinical trials have been halted, billions of research grants have been yanked without warning, preventative health programs, those that keep people healthy and out of hospitals, have been slashed to the bone. And I'm from Florida, where we have one of the largest senior populations in the country, and I'm particularly alarmed. Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease. These are not abstract concerns. Research has been stopped. These are everyday fears of millions of Americans, including my own constituents. And so we've seen the firing of thousands of scientists and other professionals. All this to give tax breaks to our healthiest or wealthiest citizens, who are also probably our healthiest citizens. And to me, that is unconscionable and dumb. So this should not be a partisan issue, really, because it doesn't matter what political party you are. People want to and should be healthy, but the Trump administration ideological dismantling of our public infrastructure must go in a different direction for me to vote for your budget. Now I have a few questions for you. I think you said that the decision for all these cuts was done by a varied amount of people. Were any of the cuts made before you were sworn into office? Were you handed? Do you remember that? Were people fired before you was? All right. Well, what did you say?
I think so, but I can't tell you.
Okay. Let me ask you this: was any member of Congress or anyone on this committee consulted before the cuts were made? And could you tell me who you talked to here?
I mean, I stayed pretty close touch with Bill Cassidy during.
Okay, well, I'm asking if anybody here, because you're here. You're asking us for money. We appropriated the funds. Did you talk to any of us, Democrat or Republican? You know what? There are actually some very bright Republicans, I will say that, on both sides of the aisle. So the answer to that question is no. So your decisions, were they based on merit or generated by an algorithm? Did somebody get Elon Musk's computer and say, okay, just make 20% cuts? Do you know if that
I disagree with your entire characterization. It was like the recitation of a narrative that, everybody knows out there, and it's the Democratic Party narrative.
I'm just asking you a question.
But it's just not true. We weren't cutting thousands of scientists.
All right,
we weren't cutting clinical trial. I mean, everything you said was essentially dishonest.
All right, that's my point.
And don't take that personally.
So don't take it personally. Mr. Secretary, how many employees have been let go so far?
Excuse me?
How many employees have been let go so far from your?
About 10,000 left, took the fork in the road, about 10,000 more.
And how many are on administrative leave now, waiting to be fired in June?
Well, that would be the second 10,000.
Okay, and are they currently being paid?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're being paid to do nothing.
Well, there's a lot of them are supposed to be coming in still.
But they're coming in to do nothing because they're not allowed to work.
Oh, no, we want them working.
Are you empowered to reverse these decisions?
Yes.
You are, okay. And how was the 15% indirect research cost cap decided?
15%?
Research, there's now a 15%.
That's pretty much about 2 to 3 points above industry standards. So we were just, if you're the Gates Foundation and you give a scientific grant to Stanford, you're giving them a 10% indirect research.
So you base this on the Gates Foundation?
No, all of the Rockefeller Foundation, all of the other foundations that give to biomedical research.
One more question.
You're asking me a question, but you won't let me answer it, Congressman.
You've done very well, very, very well. I just want to know, are you going to, can we trust you? If we put money into the budget for you, you're going to spend it the way we've directed it?
Yes, that's what the law requires.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Kennedy, for being here. So yesterday we had good news in West Virginia. I want to thank you and your team for working with the West Virginia delegation, and especially my office, to bring back NIOSH, the facility in Morgantown. This facility and the programs it administers are absolutely critical to West Virginia and to our nation's coal industry. Mr. Secretary, my understanding is that the 111 employees at NIOSH in Morgantown were reinstated earlier this week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I reinstated 328 employees at NIOSH. About a little over a third of them were in Morgantown, and then about a third in Cincinnati. And then the World Trade Center group I also reinstated.
Well, thank you for that. And the Black Lung Screening Program and the Coal Workers Health Surveillance Program are particularly important to West Virginia. My understanding is that the Coal Workers Health Surveillance Program at NIOSH will be fully reinstated. Is that correct?
Yes, the program will continue to function with continuity.
That's great. And thank you for that very much. And Mr. Secretary, it's my understanding that the programs for occupational safety and testing, like the respirator testing programs, will also be fully operational again. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for working with my office on that. As I stated, it's critically important to our coal miners and their safety and the work that they're doing, which is hazardous but very important to our country. And lastly, I do want to, and see, I'm not going to take a lot of time here, Mr. Chairman. So I do want to thank you for visiting my children's school, their Catholic school there in Martinsburg, West Virginia, with our governor recently. My daughter was there on stage with you, one of my kids, and we had a great announcement there as it relates to food dyes. And thank you for being there and being supportive of us, and also just your generational service to this country. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my close family friend who passed away just a few years ago, who was your father's campaign manager in the state of West Virginia when he was running for president, who obviously left a huge impact on our state. Thank you for all the work you're doing to make America healthy again. We obviously need the help in West Virginia, and thank you for all the support that you've come into the state, helped us support these programs that we're trying to bring back our folks to a healthy lifestyle and path. Thank you so very much for everything you're doing for this country and for West Virginia.
Thank you, Congressman. I've spent a lot of my career in West Virginia, and my family has deep roots there. My uncle, President Kennedy, would not have been president had it not been for the people of West Virginia. And that primary was the most critical primary, and Wisconsin was the second one in 1960. And he always reminded us of that. And I don't think any member of my family has ever forgotten it. It's a joy for me to be able to spend time in your state.
Well, thank you so much for that. There's a lot of great books written, by the way, on that primary in West Virginia. So thank you so very much, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Watson-Coleman?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, few things enrage me more than the racist attacks I see this administration carrying out by embarking on an ignorant crusade to rid the government of any programs that are working to improve the lives of Black Americans. The administration has moved to ban the words Black, race, bias, minority, oppression, prejudice, discrimination, disparity, and racism. Any grant application on federal programs that include these words had them immediately stripped. It is painfully clear to me that in doing this administration that you work with and work for is attempting to legitimize racial discrimination, and that, sir, is a moral disgrace. It is not woke to improve the health and well-being of Black people who are disparingly impacted by just about every health issue. It should not be controversial to make right a healthcare system that was not built to help people like me, to take my concerns, my pain, my health very seriously in this country. Black women die from childbirth complications at a higher rate in this country than any other high-income country. And last year, where there was overall maternal deaths dropping in this country, well, Black women maternal deaths rose. This sickens me, and it tells me that our government has so much more that we must do to focus on improving the lives of Black women, not less. Your decision and justifications are damning and troubling, particularly for destructive impacts your choices and benefits will have on poor and minority people. So tell me, sir, how will eliminating minority health offices, how will eliminating initiatives and programs across the department that were created to look at the disparity in healthcare and the need to give greater attention to the fact that Black folks' experience in healthcare was very damaging, was very different. How exactly will HHS, banning the words that we use to describe ourselves, make us healthier?
Congressman, President Trump's vision of this country is the same as Martin Luther King's, that we should have a colorblind administration. President Trump is deeply concerned about the maternal health crisis and the fact that Black mothers are more likely to die in childbirth, 2.6 times, 260% more likely to die.
Excuse me, sir, let me claim my time because I don't need this rhetoric about Donald Trump and the lie that he cares about me and Black people. What I want to know is the proposals. I'm claiming my time, sir, reclaiming it. I want to know specifically, how do you intend to address those disparities and to overcome those disparities as it relates to Black health in this country with the changes that you've decided are important, or someone has decided for you, I don't know, with your department? Specifically, sir.
I've spent a lifetime working on those priorities, and I continue to do so. We have 8 divisions, 8 programs for minority health at HHS. We've closed one of those offices. We're maintaining the other 7. We have 42 programs for maternal health. We're going to close a couple of them and consolidate them. We're going to still spend